Greetings and welcome to a Fate Grand Order video where we are going to be discussing the upcoming chapter of Camelot, the ridiculous fights that await us inside said chapter, and the strategies we can hopefully apply to make these battles a lot easier. Now, as of my counting, there are at least 7 fights that I consider particularly difficult, and a couple of them are absolutely trollish in that they completely change the fights, the way the class system works in the game, and if you go in unprepared for that, then you will be absolutely destroyed or be very, very frustrated. So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? Now, the first fight that we are introduced to that has a very strange mechanic that will be very infuriating is against Mr. Gawain here. Now, as you can see here, in Arrow 4 and Arrow 5 we are fighting him, and he has quite a bit of health. Now, the ridiculous thing here is that he has an 80% and a 50% damage reduction that you cannot remove at all. So, yeah. Now, the good news is that you only need to get him down to 75% on the first fight, and I believe the second fight it is only a 50% damage reduction. Yes, that is correct. Now, the other thing here is that because you're going to take quite a while to take him down, especially in Arrow 4 here, let's see, he will use his Excalibur Galatine MP, which I looked at, and is an AoE, which is, yeah, very troublesome. So what do we do against him? Well, basically having your Aeriale, a friend's Aeriale, and probably a David or something around those lines to help keep his MP down, keep him charmed, and hopefully deal massive damage to him is probably the best way to deal with him. And now we come to, well, basically one of my favorite knights, and one of my favorite characters, really, Mordred. Except this time she's on their side, and she brings the pain. And by that I mean that, as you can see there, Rampage buff basically fills her entire MP bar every turn. Yes, you are going to be suffering her Blood Clarent Arthur every single turn after the first turn, I believe. The buff gets MP charge per turn, which I'm not sure if that happens at the beginning or at the end. I'm hoping it's at the end because that would at least give us one turn. But either way, how do we deal with this? Well, let's see. What do I have on my list? Let's see. Where is my list? Here it is. So, because we actually need to survive this fight, and not once, but actually twice. Here. So, yeah, we gotta defeat her 3 times, and for a total of 300-ish, yeah, HP both times. So, yeah. So, what do we do? We have David, which was given to us after the second singularity, whose second skill has an AoE evasion for everybody. We have Aeriale, who can deal lots of damage. Well, not too much because she's actually female, but she can reduce her charge by 1, so hopefully buying you a turn, hopefully. If it works the way I think it works, but I might be wrong. Noble is also an archer, deals extra damage to anyone with a riding skill, which she has an AoE MP gain plus, which will be very useful, and is an event servant, so she was free, is also very useful. Billy the Kid himself has self-evasion, self-MP charge for 30%, single target MP, and really other than that, it's basically do your best to not take as much damage as possible and deal as much back. Now luckily she only has 272,000 in the final battle and 255,000 in the first battle. Now that is good and bad because even though it's a relatively low MP, the amount of damage you're taking is ridiculous. So basically trying to lower her MP charge, from what I can tell, is the best way, I think. I'm not really sure when her Rampage buff activates, if it's at the beginning of her turn or at the end of your turn. But either way, this is a battle of burn the other person down faster than you are. And now we move on to the next one, Tristan. Oh, by the way, before you actually fight Tristan here, you gotta deal with Mordred again, so be prepared for that. Hopefully the story actually warns us about that. Now, Tristan. Tristan has quite an interesting buff on him. So as you can see, he appears here in, I believe this is chapter 17, but he also appears all the way over here in chapter 12. I believe it's right over here. Yes, there he is. Tristan, then Tristan again. So yeah, 3 times you gotta fight him. Now as you can see, reversal passive buff eliminates class meta, which means Lancers will no longer do double damage to him. And same goes to Berserker. And Rulers will take normal damage from him, Shielders remain neutral, and he can't be debuffed. However, he also deals the damage of a Berserker. which dealing 50% more damage to everyone. And the only class that can deal 2 times damage to him is sabers. Now if you look at his class, he is an archer. So as you can see, if you came into this fight thinking, oh, it's all archers, I'll go in with all sabers, you would probably get destroyed by him. And not only in this fight, but the second fight as well, when that is quite a bit of HP. So this is one of those troll fights where the game decided, you know what, let's make him bring sabers to an archer fight to beat this thing. So yeah, other than that, he really isn't that difficult. Bring a bunch of sabers and burst him down as quickly as possible. And now we have Lancelot, the Knight of Honor. So what is his gimmick? Well, as you can see, he has a ferocity passive buff. Allows him to gain ruler class advantages, which means he takes half damage from everyone except berserkers, rulers, and avengers. But at the same time, deal half damage to archers and rulers. And I believe that's because he is still considered a saber of sorts-ish. He also can't be debuffed, which means Aeriali can no longer charm him with his skill or her MP. He can't be stunned because he can't be debuffed anyway. Now, as you can see, his normal attacks right there will target the person with the highest AP. This is something that I don't think anyone else has had up until now. So as you can see here, it recommends just bringing as many Avengers as possible, but that's asking too much considering that the only 3 Avengers currently in the game are a very low, the lowest star, the only 1-star servant in the game that's an Avenger, that's near impossible to get, but almost useless. Jean Alter, who's a 5-star, and Edmund Dancy, which is also a 5-star. So you're more than likely going to be bringing a friend or future friend's Jean Alter with you, and hopefully accomplishing it that way. And now we come into the very first fight that will probably make you pull your hair out, and that is against the Demon Pillar, the one that is at the end of every chapter. Now as you can see here, he is King of Gods Amun-Ra. However, if you can look down there at his 3rd skill, he basically gets a full HP heal. Recover 100,000, I believe? Let's see. Yep, that is 100,000 of HP, and then regenerate 10,000 HP per turn for 10 turns. Now, if you let this go through, basically most of your work for an entire turn will go away, and that'll make it a little annoying. Now, something many people don't know is that most Demon Pillars are weak to the Cavalry classes. That means Rider, Assassin, and Caster deal extra damage to them, and I believe are also resistant to their damage. So against this fight, which has a massive healing ability here, what would I recommend? Well, probably bring around your Ushiwakamaru, a friend's Ushiwakamaru, and let's see, a caster like a friend's Waver or your own Helena like I have, and basically charge up MPs and then launch an MP wave and hopefully finish him out before he completely heals up. That is really the only thing against him. You gotta do this twice, by the way. So yeah, have fun with that. And now, onto the penultimate battle, which can catch you a little by surprise. And now we are dealing with, I have no idea what the story is so far, so all I know is that we are fighting Ozymandias and Nitocris. Yeah, so the thing about him is that you gotta fight him 3 times, 90, 100, and 300,000 HP. And you're probably thinking I should probably bring assassins. However, if you look at his support in all 3 fights, it is a caster, so yeah, bringing assassins is not particularly recommended, or at least more than one. And if you take a look, we are actually fighting Nitocris along with Mr. Ozymandias here. So let's take a look at her skills, shall we? Here we go, so let's see, increase the instant kill success rate. I have no idea how that works against servants. And then we have charges on MP. Oh dear, yeah, that is going to hurt. And then grants of Gust for 1 time and 3 turns. So yeah, difficult to kill. And now her Noble Phantasm, damage to all enemies. So yeah, bring in assassins, or at least more than 1 assassin to this fight, not recommended. And what about Mr. Ozymandias here? What are his skills? Let's see, increase attack. Oh, that's interesting. A heal. And charges on MP, obviously. So yeah, this fight can catch a little bit of surprise, and Nitocris can basically eliminate your assassins if you come in with only those. And as you can see here, during the final fight, he will start with an MP fully charged. Fun. Now, if you thought any of these fights were particularly hard, you have no idea what is waiting for us for the final fight. Yes, we are up against a fake Arthur, I guess you could call her. And now for the final boss of the entire thing, Altria Lancer, or the Goddess of Unwanted, or however you pronounce that fancy world-destroying spear she has. Now, originally this fight was absolutely crazy because her MP grants her a invincibility and dodge piercing buff, meaning that you cannot dodge her noble phantasm, you cannot become immune to it, and it deals tons of damage and is an AoE. And not only that, at the very beginning of the fight, she will cast her Charisma B on herself, increasing her attack even further. So what do we do? Now, originally, you had to tank this with pure defense-increasing servants and sabers such as Mordred or Siegfried. However, after doing a little bit of research, I think I found an extremely cheap alternative to help you be allowed to dodge her MP. And that is thanks to Mr. Mephistopheles the Clown. Pretty much a 3-star servant everybody should at least have one copy of. Now, the reason I mention this is because after you do his strengthening quest, his third skill becomes the following. Inflict a buff block status to one enemy 3 times and inflict curse on him. Now, the curse part is irrelevant, but what's important about is buff block status. Now, after reading down in the comments on his wiki page, I have read that people are using him for pretty much the exact same purpose I am telling you, but for bosses that are further down the line. Which means that this should, in theory, work. So turn 1, you cast his debuff onto her. They will negate the first 3 buffs she goes on her, not including her attack up buff from the beginning of the fight. And this should, in turn, allow you to dodge pretty much her MP at the very least 3 times. Hopefully. I'm not sure if she has any other buffs that she puts on herself, but if this does indeed work, that means that you can indeed use invincibility and dodge mechanics in order to survive, hopefully extending the fight long enough for you to be able to take her down. Now, if you don't have Mephistopheles for some odd reason, or it doesn't work like I just mentioned, but I do believe it should, the other way is just to increase your defense immensely. And the only 2 servants that are mentioned pretty much everywhere I've looked are 1, Mordred, a 5-star unfortunately, but she is basically perfect for this fight because her third skill increases her defense by quite a bit and also increases her MP by between 15 and 30%. So not only are you increasing your defense by a lot, you're also the Saber class, which is strong against Lancers, and not only that, but her MP deals extra damage to Arthur enemies, and yes, we are fighting technically Arthur here. Now, the other servant that I can mention here is Siegfried, and the reason for that is that his noble phantasm deals extra damage to dragons, and in case you didn't know, every single person in the Arthur bloodline, in this game at least, regardless of her class, is classified as a dragon. If you have Mordred and Jean Alter on the same team, and Jean Alter buffs their attack, Mordred will receive the extra attack buff after the first one because she is classified as a dragon. This occurs for every other one. So basically, using those 2 and Mephistopheles might work. Or if you're hoping to dodge everyone, you can go in with Mordred, go in with David, who can help everybody dodge 1 attack, and Mephistopheles at the end to put that debuff on her. And this should at the very least buy you 2 turns or 3 before she actually has enough buffs to undo the curse, which unfortunately has a 8 to 6 turn cooldown, which is quite a lot, but that definitely seems like the most viable way to take her down. Now, whether or not it works, I do not know currently. We are still 1 week away from this being released, but as soon as I figure out, I will tell you. And with that, that is every single fight that I believe can be very troublesome in Camelot. So hopefully you find this useful, especially this final part, and I will see you next time.